welcome to Weeee podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Sauvé-Bogue from Moonwild Studio, and I am so excited to be here sitting with you today. And if you're watching me on the video on YouTube, you'll see that I'm sitting here in my tropical jungle at Moonwild Studio, surrounded by my plants and my pretty things, and I can feel my soft carpet under my feet, and I'm sitting here on my little poof, and oh, I wonder if I needed the pot filter for that. Poof. Sounds like it. So here's the thing. I'm going to ask a favor of all of you. I'm going to ask if you can receive this offering of this podcast with your whole heart, with your attention, without it having to be perfect for today. This show has been years in the making, many years. And I felt very passionate about making it come to life today. Today, on August 8th, 2024, 888, Lion's Portal. 8 is my life path number, and it's a number that holds a lot of significance for me. And it represents a feeling of limitlessness. That things just keep going and going, and nothing is lost, only transformed. So today, there's so many reasons I could say I'm not ready to launch the first episode of Weeee podcast. But I'm making this show for you. And I don't want you to wait any longer to receive all the goodness I have in store for you. This is a show about what it means to know, to love, and to lead yourself. This is a show about evolving the collective forward by way of every one person. Each one of us who decides to pay attention to what it is that we have to offer makes a massive contribution to the world in ways bigger than we probably give ourselves credit for. On this show, I want to talk about all things creative, art, music, design. I want to talk about your biggest dreams, what holds you back, what keeps you stuck. I want to help you shift perspectives from I can't to I will. I want this to be a safe, inclusive space for everyone who feels the intuitive nudge, who feels the call to live an authentic life. Whether you're interested in listening to the show for you or for thinking about how you could really make a bigger contribution to the world, we're going to be touching on all of those topics. We're going to talk about visionary leadership, sustainability, our role in creating a future that we're proud to pass down. I want us to talk about how to create the swoon-worthy future that we dream of and how to leave behind a past that we're proud of by way of knowing, loving, and leading ourselves. So ultimately, this is a show that's about self-leadership. I'm going to talk about leadership and personal development in a way that you might not hear that much. I'm not going to dive too far into my background on this first episode, but I'll tell you a little bit about my inspiration for starting this show. For a long time, I really had so much trouble with understanding my worth, my purpose, why any of this matters, even though in so many ways I knew that I had a lot to be grateful for. I knew that I had a lot of potential, maybe. To be honest, I think deep down, I had a lot of ambition. And it did show up by way of, getting good grades and caring about how I showed up in the world for other people. But the one thing I really struggled with was my relationship with myself and my reason for being here. I guess I was always a deep feeler and thinker. And I really did, from an early age, start contemplating things like the meaning of existence. Why are we here? What is this? And why is it so hard? Everyday life was really hard for me. And it was confusing because I was intelligent academically. I could read and write really well. I was creative. I was an artist. I was a writer from a young age, and I loved to paint, and I had no trouble with creativity. But I did struggle with things like routine and everyday life. And I know a lot of creatives that can relate to this. And before I go any further on that, you don't have to consider yourself creative to belong in this space, to listen to this show. I'm interested in all kinds of people. And this show is for you. It's really for anyone who can relate to this desire to know yourself better, this desire to do something with that. I really believe that in the entire fabric of the universe, each one of us is a vital thread. So, in my experience of not really being connected to why I was here and why it mattered, it turned out to be actually a really painful experience for me. It manifested as eventually me really struggling to want to live. And I know that topic can be really heavy, and we for sure will be talking about it on this show. I'm not going to dive into it too much on the first episode. But I do want to share with you from my heart where I'm coming from when I say that this work means so much to me. I may show up imperfectly in my leadership as a business owner, as a person. I definitely show up imperfectly, but I am passionate. Imperfectly passionate is a way that I have given myself permission to do the things that I care about without having to have it just right, just yet. Because the truth is, my friends, the only way through is through. The only way to master something is to be okay at it, to be terrible at it at first, and then to be okay at it, and then to get better and better and better until one day you can't believe how good you are at it. And it takes courage to say, hey, I have an idea. I want to share it with the world. Who knows what will happen? I say that I'm making this show for you, and that's true. But really, I'm making it for me because I feel like I have such a big calling. I have such a big calling to do it. I'm making it for all of us. I'm making it for the version of me who didn't think she had a right to be here. And one thing that really began to heal that fear, that thought, that feeling for me was in looking at the innate, inherent value of animals and how my kitty and my dog, there was no question of their worth, and it didn't matter what they accomplished or achieved. That wasn't their purpose here. So why couldn't that be true for humans too? And then I began to study kind of about our uniqueness. Is it okay to be this way? Is it okay if I'm different? I have these big ambitions and then I struggle to get to school on time. Trying to make sense of all of this. And what I discovered is that I, like you, like every single one of you, like every single human on the planet, is scientifically a miracle. That the rarity of each of us is one out of a number so big that it doesn't even exist, therefore making it a miracle number. The chances of you existing and me existing exactly as we are is so rare that it is scientifically considered a miracle. When I read about this concept, I started to open up my heart and my mind to wonder more things about my purpose and how have I survived all of the times where maybe I shouldn't have. And this was much later in my life, in my 20s, when I really started to realize how much I have risked my life, how much I have somehow survived through situations that, really could have taken me out, if I'm honest. And so, even though I felt really lost, I had this feeling that something somehow was supporting me, protecting me. And I wondered why. I knew that I had a good heart and good intentions and big, big dreams for the ways I wish the world could be a more inclusive, loving, compassionate, prosperous place where everyone has more than what they need, where we care about the planet, where no one is going hungry, where people spend their lives doing something beautiful and interesting instead of causing destruction and pain. I thought a lot about these things. But then I worked as a bartender and I met a lot of cool people, but you know what? I just wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't fulfilled in the depth of my spirit, and the things I really cared about were not being fulfilled by my daily routine. And it led me to find myself in quite a few very rock bottom moments. And I will have so many stories to tell you through the duration of this show. This show is going to be a living and breathing experience that we share. I want to provide you with insights and perspectives and tools and practices and inspiration, encouragement, support, unconditional love for your mess and your magic. I do not want you to play small in your life. Your life matters. And I know that you're a hot mess sometimes. So am I. So am I, boo. Trust me. But that should never be the reason that we don't go after what it is that is our gift, that we don't go after what it is we dream of. If there's something on your heart that you would love to do, maybe a vision you have for our world or for the future, but you're sitting here like, but who am I to do that? I don't know how. I don't know how to start. I mean, honestly, every day I work at my job, every day is the same. Or maybe you're like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Maybe you're 70 years old and you're saying that. I'm 40. I just turned 40 this year. And in a sense, I feel like a bit of a late bloomer. And in a sense, I feel like an old soul. And the reason for that is that I feel deeply connected to what really matters in life now. And I feel a strong sense of where I'm going and why it matters. But it took me a long time to get here. And a long time is relative. Everyone's path is different. Everyone's life story is different. And what I want to encourage on this show is that you feel a sense of permission to own your story, to love your story, to keep writing your story, you being the author. If you feel that the world has written it for you, I want to encourage you to begin to imagine what your life could become and will become once you decide that you are taking charge. There was a moment in 2018. It was September. I was sitting in my office of my rental house at the time. Imagine a room full of clutter. I mean, there was stuff everywhere. It was a mess. I was a mess. I was in a peak stress moment. I was trying to figure something out and I couldn't figure it out. I can't remember what it was now, but I was working on a project and I couldn't remember something that I knew I had written down somewhere. And at this point in time in my life, I was really just flying by the seat of my pants, flying by the seat of my vintage skirt and my cowgirl boots. You know what I mean? I was showing up for work in the best way that I could and making a valuable contribution, I think, as far as I received the feedback of. But I had so many kind of dark secrets lingering beneath the surface that had to do with my mental health, my secret drinking problem, my hating myself. Oh gosh, honestly, it was tough. It was rough. And as much as maybe I helped my boss at work be more organized, I really struggled in my own life to feel any sense of I've got me and I know what I'm doing. So on this one September afternoon, I was frantically rummaging through a drawer for something. And I remember feeling this strong sense of time pressure around something. But something stopped me dead in my tracks. And it was this little piece of paper that I saw in the drawer once I started pulling things out. And I was kind of frantically pulling things out, looking for something, and I see this piece of paper. It looks old. It has my handwriting on it. It's kind of faded. And I immediately feel just the air leave my lungs. And I take this piece of paper and I sit down in my office chair. And it's like time stops. Because what it said at the top of this piece of paper was New Year's resolutions, 2013, 5 years before. And I started to look through this list and I just started to cry. I could just feel my body wilting like a dead flower. I could feel the life force just being sucked out of me in this moment. Everything I had written on that list really meant something to me. And what I realized in this moment was not one of those things had been completed. Honestly, there's a pain in my chest just thinking about it, just remembering that moment, because in that moment, I had a very visceral experience of understanding what it would mean if I made it to the end of my life and I still didn't cross anything off that list. Because what was on that list wasn't the things prescribed to us in the American dream. It wasn't something that, I was taught to want. These were things that really meant something to me. And in that moment, I became painfully aware that if I keep going the way I am right now, my last days will be full of regret. And it's almost like my future flashed before my eyes in that moment, where I really imagined myself with no time left and just what it would feel like to have lived my life so far from my potential. I had this sense of where my potential was, and the space between where I was in that moment, in that time in my life. Not just that day, having a rough day, but in that chapter of my life, the space between my reality and my potential it felt so big. And that void, that distance, it felt so incredibly painful. It almost felt like life or death. It felt like suddenly I had this incredible urgency to do something about it. That moment, it broke my spirit. It made me feel so ashamed, so disappointed in myself, so sad. And I looked around that room and I looked at my mess and I looked at my deadline and I looked at everything and I felt my hangover and everything about that moment made me disgusted by my life. And I just knew no matter how my life looks on the outside, I know how it feels to live in this life right now, and it is not enough. And whenever you say something like that, it might come across as ungrateful. But here's the thing. I really was grateful for everything I had. But the truth is, I knew that I was not being enough. That's the harsh, tough love truth I needed to face in that moment. I am not being enough right now. And I really am a huge advocate for all of you, all of us, feeling that we are enough without having to do anything. Because just like animals, We have an innate worth, just like your pets. Without having to do anything, honestly, you are born with a priceless worth that cannot even compare to money or external achievements. And this wasn't about that, though. This was about facing the other side of the truth that if we have gifts to share with the world and big dreams, whether our gifts are small or big, whatever it is, and it is not expressed out into the world, it's almost like what would have been implodes back in on you, like this painful weight. And that feeling of not enoughness that we can have sometimes is valid, because it's not that you aren't enough, and it's not that I wasn't enough in that moment. It's that I actually wasn't holding myself true to what I wanted. I was letting myself get away with being less. I was letting myself get away with avoiding the real truth of who I was by floating along in the distractions, the struggle, the avoidance, the procrastination, the I'll figure it out later. And then all of a sudden, 5 years goes by. And when I wrote down those New Year's resolutions 5 years before, I wrote them down like I really meant it. I really believed in myself. And I let myself down. Year after year after year after year. And it's not that I didn't accomplish anything. And it's not that I didn't do things that were meaningful. It's just that I was only letting maybe 20% of myself shine out into the world. So much of me was hidden away for no one to see, and it was eating me alive. There's all kinds of reasons why we do this, and I know I'm not the only one, and this is one of my biggest motivations for making this show. I have witnessed such talented, visionary, incredibly compassionate, problem-solving, thought-leading, world-changing people who didn't have self-confidence, who didn't have self-discipline, who let those ideas sit on the back burner while they just frolicked in mediocrity and said, it's okay. Well, I'm here to say that you can actually do whatever you want with your life. You can. And I would never judge you for that. But my hope is for all of us, my wish for all of us, is that you feel inspired and encouraged and safe to really be the truth of who you are. And yes, that includes in your greatness. How many times have you had a little intuitive calling towards something that you're like, what if I could do that? And then a little voice comes in that says, oh, but who are you to do that? But you don't know how. But you got to stay humble. But, what would your friends and family think? You're not that person. I mean, and all of this dialogue, this inner dialogue goes on that talks you out of it and keeps you small, keeps you stuck, keeps you doing the same old thing until it's almost like you can become kind of a shell of yourself. You can become a little disconnected from that feeling of aliveness, of passion, of desire, of, man, I really feel like this matters. I want everyone to feel that because I really believe that when everyone is true to themselves, all the positions in the world are filled. We are all here on purpose. And when we try to be someone else or something that we're not, we're taking up a space that wasn't ours to take, and we're leaving a wide, gaping hole in the fabric of the universe that is the shape of who we are meant to be. On this show, I want to share with you so many of the things that have helped me from that moment I just shared about you with in my office that day, that have helped me grow into a different version of me, a version of me that can sit here and confidently say that I understand what it means to know, to love, and to lead yourself. In that moment, that day, I did not love myself at all. In fact, I loathed myself. And if people would even mention the word self-love, I would cringe. I thought that was so lame. For many years, I was a partier, I was a bartender, I worked in a really cute, cool vintage shop. I wanted nothing to do with the world of personal development, and I thought self-love was cheesy and annoying. I loved to make fun of myself. I loved to party and drink and be carefree and have jobs that were easy and fun. And I loved to avoid being authentic, real, and raw. I love to be the one with a smile. I love to be the one with the optimism. And I have to say, that is a genuine part of my personality, but it's evolved into my belief that truth is actually what it's about. It's not about sugarcoating or spiritual bypassing or performing a version of yourself. It's just so that you can be the one with the positive attitude in the room. And it's not about being cynical and bitter and saying, I don't even matter. Why am I even here? When you really are willing to open your heart and mind and spirit to the truth of it all, you discover profound things. And I'm here to also keep it lighthearted and fun. We, at the same time, don't take our life seriously enough and take ourselves too seriously. And I believe that we are better off when we do the opposite. Take your life seriously. It actually matters what you do with it. But be willing to laugh at yourself when you fall. And when you do what I did today, where I was invited to give a leadership presentation to women in business. I spent 8.5 hours on my presentation. I woke up really early to make sure that I was grounded and embodied and ready to lead and to speak and to share my heart. And so I give my presentation. I sit down. I look down and I notice that, I can see my bright pink little bicycle shorts peeking out. And then I can see skin. And then I realize that my whole side zipper of my dress is undone. Oh my gosh. No amount of prep could have prepared me for just not realizing that I didn't zip up the side of my dress. Imperfect, passionate leadership, my friends. We have to allow for it. We have to be able to laugh at ourselves, because if you take yourself too seriously, Shame is going to eat you alive. I take these things with a light heart now. I think it's hilarious when I have a story to tell like that because who cares? At least it was a room full of women and it was a small group. And honestly, it was no big deal. It was funny. Luckily, the dress I chose was a little bit loose and flowy, so you couldn't even really tell, I guess, but I had a good laugh. The version of me in 2018 who was not cool with herself wouldn't have handled that with so much lightness. I don't think so. But also, I had incredible stage fright, and there's no way I would have ever given a presentation like that back then. There's no way. I had the kind of stage fright that made me feel uncomfortable to unwrap a present on my birthday in front of people, honestly. Well, here I am speaking on a microphone and recording a YouTube video. And it's not that I think I'm so great. I'm not. I'm just like everybody else. I have things about me that are awesome and things about me that suck, just like everybody. But I had a passion and I followed it and I kept following it and I kept looking into things. What is the purpose of all this? How do I become more productive? How do I heal avoidance? How do I heal procrastination? How do I get a handle on my drinking? How do I get the courage to do something that's on my heart? I just dove deep. I hired coaches, I joined programs, I studied and I studied and I studied what it means to be human and what it means to shift from thinking that self-love is the cheesiest term in the world to actually thinking, you know what? I think there's something to this self-love thing. And I am a very compassionate, accepting, unconditionally loving person who is not here to judge. But I am also oftentimes, for my clients, a tough love coach. And tough love is what I needed in that moment. And it's something I value very, very much because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the quote that Mel Robbins often refers to that has to do with no one is coming to change your life for you. No one is coming to save you. This is what really hit me like a lightning bolt that day in my office. I really heard that. No one is coming to save you. No one knows what you're going through. Everyone thinks you're okay. Everyone thinks you're doing great. No one is coming to fix this for you. And what are you going to do about it? And ever since then, I started to get a feeling for what self-leadership was and self-responsibility was. And I became obsessed with the work of knowing myself, of figuring out, at first it was just how to not hate myself. Self-love was way too far of a stretch. But after many years, I guess about 6 years now, I can honestly say that I'm pretty on board with that now. And I share this because I want you to know, if you're listening to this, which obviously you are if you're hearing me say that, I will get used to this, my friends. But I want to say, no matter where you're at in terms of this knowing yourself, loving yourself, leading yourself, if you are really advanced and you've been doing this work for years and maybe you lead people and coach people and teach people and heal people and help people, maybe you're already a thought leader in the world and you're very confident. We're going to have a lot of amazing, expanding conversations for you. I'm not going to hold back in the depth and the expansion that is available to us here. And On the other hand, I want to say if you're someone who is still very, or in a moment maybe in your life where you're really struggling with any of those things, I invite you to stay as long as you are called for as many episodes as you can stand, because you don't have to relate to everything I'm saying for this to benefit you, and you don't have to get it all right away. So much of how I healed, so much of my inner pain I experienced in my life was through being open and willing to just listen, to put myself in rooms where people were having conversations about these kinds of things, to feel like I was out of my league and to let myself be there anyway, to feel like, oh, this person is really annoying me with everything they're talking about, and listen anyway, because there was something in it for me. And I had to wonder, why does this bother me so much? And so what I know is that whether we are inspired into a transformation, we're supported into a transformation, or whether we're activated or triggered even into a transformation, it's all for us. You never ever have to agree with everything I say on this show for you to get value from it. I want to invite you to be true to yourself. I want you to speak up and share your feedback and be a part of the conversation. I'm very, very excited to be putting together a venue for us to meet up. A huge part of my life has always been live music, art, nightlife, music festivals. Honestly, I'm a festival queen. I have seen hundreds of shows. It's a big part of my life. And hey, I'm married to a drummer that I met at a music festival. More on that later. But I'm opening something, a virtual venue for us, the Weeee venue. And I am going to invite you when it's ready to join me, where we will be able to come together and talk about the topics that come up on this show. So I'm really excited to take this beyond a one-sided conversation and get to know who you are. I want to hear your input. I want to answer your questions. I want us to share resources. I want to create a really cool online space that feels like a magic carpet ride. That feels like, you know how I feel after seeing live music? I feel like the soul part of myself comes to the forefront. It's like it just awakens that heart energy, that creative energy. I want to talk about self-leadership and personal development and personal growth in a way that feels like that. I don't want it to feel stuffy and boring and cheesy and prescriptive or judgmental or pushy or forceful or any of that. I want us to keep it real. I want us to keep it fun. We get to dive into the shadow and welcome in the light. I want us to tell our most embarrassing stories and celebrate our most incredible successes. This is going to take shape as a collaboration. That's my hope. I have so much to give. I have so much to share. And that is my main inspiration for wanting to start this show, because I feel like how far I've come from that day in 2018 that I told you about to where I am now is full of life-changing information that I don't want to keep to myself. I need to share it with you. I want to share it with you. We need to know. We need to know that there is another way. We need to know that we have the capacity to heal. to grow, to change, to do things differently. We don't have to wait for permission. It is on us. And that can feel like a lot of pressure. And so you don't need to fix everything today. You don't need to fix anything at all, my love. You're already perfect. Really, in your essence, you are. But where we become a hot mess, which I'm not here to tell you you're not a hot mess. Trust me, I have seen it. I know how bad it can get. I sometimes still live those moments where I'm like, Stephanie, seriously? What the heck are you doing, boo? There are times when I cannot believe that I'm in this situation again. You know what I mean? But if I'm honest with myself, I really do need to see the truth of how far I've come, because it is miles and miles and miles. And if I had kept going in the other direction, what I became painfully aware of that day is that I might not still be here. I might not still be here. And there will be so much more on that later. But for today, I'm basking in the just the excitement of gratitude that I feel like it's so much for me to just sit here and talk in this chill way, because honestly, I just want to dance. I want to jump up and down. I want to let myself feel so excited, because I'm so excited. I know that this first podcast is not going to be perfect. It's not even going to be what I imagined. The moment got here where it was time to record, and I said, now is the time. Just do it. And we are going to have so many conversations about that, about how to get out of your own way and just live your freaking beautiful life as it was meant to be lived. If you were not held back by the voices of other people, by expectations, by judgment, by fear, by self-doubt, if you were not held back by destructive self-sabotaging patterns, if you were not held back by fear and hesitation and shyness and what else? What's holding you back? What's holding you back? I want to invite you to think about that, because sure, some of us might be in a moment where we're like, nothing. I am feeling on top of the world. If that's you, I'm speaking to you too, because honestly, from that place, you are capable of so much magic, and I cannot wait to celebrate with you. When we are in a place where we do feel safe, we do feel enough, we do feel grateful, things are going well, and I hope all of you get to experience that sometimes. We are capable of big dreams that change the frickin' world. So let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I don't even have children, my friends, but I really do actually care about the next generations to follow me. And I care about passing on a world that I'm proud of. I do not buy into that our future has to be dystopian. I don't. I just can't. I can't. Because we are so creative. We have so many solutions available to us. If we decide that it matters enough, we will figure it out. And Mother Nature is miraculous in all of her majesty. Mother Nature is my muse. It is just incredible to learn about how, oh, now there's a mushroom that thrives on eating plastic. Imagine the hope we have for our future as we continue to learn about what is possible for the planet, for each other, for you, for me, for ourselves. And I feel like this is a good point at which to begin to wrap up our show for today. I am so excited to be putting out the first episode. I'm already excited about the second one. You can expect to have 2 episodes a week from me. And to be honest, I've really played with the idea of not following the recommended formulas about podcasting and just doing my own thing. Part of that is going to be I really want to play with music on this podcast. And one of the jobs I do at Moonwild Studio, aside from coaching and teaching and leading workshops and ceremonies and things, is I work as a DJ and I love music. I want to bring a little bit of that inspiration to the show. And so instead of following the recommendation of you should stick to the same song so that it's recognizable and people know what to expect because people like that, I want to experiment. I made a list of about 35 songs to choose from for my intro and my outro of this show. And then I thought, why do I have to choose just one? Why can't I DJ with every episode and share a new song with you that I found that I love? So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to give myself permission to let this podcast be a living, breathing, evolving work of art because that's what we are. And this show is about us. It's about me. It's about you. It's for you. It's for us. Because I really do believe that the way that we actually have community care and move the global collective family forward is via each one of us first. And so starting here in our little venue, in our little earbuds and on our microphones and in our homes and our cars and wherever you're listening from, maybe you're out for a walk in nature, maybe you're doing chores around the house, maybe you're on an airplane embarking on an inspiring trip. I'd love to hear where you're listening from. But I really do believe from all those little places in our life and all those big places in our life, we really do get to change the world one moment at a time. And so much of what I have been able to give back from a resourced place now has to do with having mentors that taught me things. And I feel that it is time for me to give back in that way. I have so much love to share with all of you. I have hope now. I am inspired. Despite all of what is happening in the world that doesn't feel good. And I don't want to glaze over that because it's important to face the truth of what is going on. I do just still have to believe, want to believe, giving myself permission to believe that we still get to be hopeful and that, in fact, maybe that's our job. And so we're going to get deep on this show, if you can't tell already. Although I feel like I've kept it a bit light for me. But we're also going to have fun. And we're going to keep it light sometimes. Some days I'm going to come on here with an agenda just to light a fire under your butt. And some days I'm probably going to come on here crying. I'm not going to hold back from the truth of who I am on this show because I want to lead by example. I believe in that with my whole heart, that our embodiment, our willingness to be the thing we say that would help someone else is really important to our integrity. And so I'm going to challenge myself to show up to this, even on the hard days when I'm not feeling it. And you guys are really going to get to know the real me. Hopefully you already are a little bit. This is week 1. And I can already feel that this is going to be a long journey that I'm going to stay loyal to because it just feels so right. I meant to actually tell the story of why this podcast became You Boo at the last minute. I'll tell the short version. On November 9th, 2021, this idea just dropped into my awareness that felt really profound. It was this whole philosophy, this concept. I do audio journaling on my walks sometimes. I audio journaled on that thought. I listened to it a few days ago to remind myself. One of the first things I said about this idea was, I think this needs to be a podcast or a book. I need to talk about this. So for the past 3 years, I thought I was going to create a podcast about that. Well, I decided on May 1st this year, that it was time to actually put the podcast out. I put it out there into the world. I put it on social media. I told my friends. I told some of my clients. I was like, okay, I'm accountable to this now. Well, I missed the first deadline, which was May 31st. But why did that happen? The more that I started to take the show seriously, this resistance came up. There was something about the title, the idea. I needed more time. I wasn't ready. There was something holding me back. And I just really felt like it was important for me to trust that. And it wasn't that I was avoiding the scary thing. There really was a truthful feeling to, this isn't quite ready to be shared with the world. So I gave myself permission to show up vulnerably and tell everyone, oh, hey, just kidding. I need more time. I thought about it. I felt into it. August 8th, 888. When you add up 2024, that adds up to 8. So this day right now is 888. Feels really significant. As soon as I thought of that, I was like, oh, okay. That is giving me more space. I like that. I'm going to recommit and put it out into the world. It's this date now. Felt a little scary, but I did it because I wanted to hold myself accountable to that. I liked the idea of celebrating August 8th every year. 8/8 just feels special to me. So 1 week ago, I was staying home on a Friday night. Not even a week ago, 6 days ago. I stayed home on a Friday night when my hubby was out having fun to work on my podcast. And something came through. It was the new name, the new concept. Oh my gosh, the idea is morphing and changing, and I can't stop it. It felt so right. I felt so giddy. I felt so excited. I thought, this is it. The reason I've had so much resistance to actually putting this out into the world is because the other idea is not ready yet, even though it's been 3 years. The idea is so big, it's so complicated, it's so deep. It is super niche. And I'm still excited about it. I'm still going to do it. It's going to be something. I don't know exactly what yet. But when this new idea just dropped in and took over, it was like, oh, that's it. This is the podcast I am doing on 8/8. This is the one I'm doing in 6 days. Oh my gosh. So guess what? New name, new cover art idea, new cover art executed, new description, new concept. A lot of overlap, but honestly, a new concept. I had to rethink the music, I had to rethink everything. Sounds kind of insane to change the idea at the last minute, but I had to do it. So here I am 6 days later, showing up imperfectly but passionate about this idea that I have only had 6 days to work on, but that I've actually been working on for many, 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 many years. This actually felt more embodied. I feel ready for this. And I feel really, really excited for how this is going to hopefully support all of you. And so, you boo podcast, you, my boo, it's for you. It's for all of us. It's for the planet. It's in the spirit of learning to know ourselves, love ourselves, and most of all, lead ourselves. This is going to continue to evolve and unfold. Like all of us, we're going to continue to grow and evolve and change, and I want to allow for that. I want this show to be a reflection of the way it feels to be human and to be growing. I'm excited to see how it continues to take shape. Thank you so much for listening. This show is for anyone who feels the spark of curiosity about these kinds of conversations. It's for the dreamers, the visionaries, the creatives, the rebels, the ones who know there's something more, those who just love to learn and love to keep it real. There's something really beautiful about keeping it real while also making it magical. And I think you'll find that you get a lot of that in this space. I haven't even met you yet, but I believe in you so much. I believe in you because what I have felt myself capable of now. I believe in you because of what I've witnessed my clients do. I believe in you because what I've witnessed my mentors do. I believe in the power of the human spirit. I believe in what's possible for us when we believe in ourselves and believe in other people and believe that the future actually holds something worth working for and being excited about. And I'm here for the hard stuff. I'm not afraid of it. Bring it on. I've seen worse. No, in all honesty, I know that people have been through so much worse things than I ever have, and I know that a lot of the struggle that I've experienced was actually due to my lack of relationship with myself. And so that is why I'm especially passionate about this topic, because as much as there is out there to hurt us, let it not be us. We've got to bet on ourselves. We've got to believe in ourselves. We've got to at least begin to practice something that creates movement in our life, that makes us feel alive, that makes us remember that it matters. Remembering is a lot of what we're going to be doing. Some of the work that we all need to do is just in the unlearning of the social conditioning that has shaped us, that has taken us further from who we actually are. And some of the work is to step into becoming what you're capable of, but you haven't experienced yet. So, this is a show about the uniqueness of you. How do you embrace it? How do you uncover it? And then how do you have the courage to show up differently around the people who already know you. That is so challenging. When people have expectations of us from the past, it can be a barrier for us to change, to feel we have permission to change. Today, I gave myself permission to show up imperfectly. I created my makeshift little jungle here in Moonwild Studio that I'm in love with. My hubby helped me. He's my number one boo thing. And I'm so grateful that there's going to be so many other boos coming in my life on the You Boo podcast and in the You Boo venue. Virtual venue. More on that later. I'm so excited to share with you what the cover charge will be. If I decide to have one. I just wanted to say that because it's fun. Going with the whole venue theme is really fun and inspiring for me. I'm thinking about, okay, what's the green room going to be? What's the VIP experience going to be? How is this going to take shape? I don't even know yet, but we're going to build it together. Be prepared to face some tough truths by listening to this show. And be prepared as well to be loved on, encouraged, supported, inspired. All of it, all of it, all of it. We are coming up on 106. And I feel like the right time to end the show today is 108. And you either already understand what is the deal with finding meaning in things like numbers, or you're like, what the heck is this woo-woo woman up to? And if that's you, trust me, we're going to talk about these things. But I do really enjoy tapping into the meaning behind things, especially because for a long time, I really didn't believe that anything really had meaning. And that just didn't work for me. I don't know if it's just the way I am, but it really didn't work for me. And life is so much more rich with letting things have meaning. It's fun. And I find a lot of it to be very true and very relevant. On this show, you're going to see that science, spirituality, art, self-leadership, personal development, storytelling, all of it collides. It's going to be a kaleidoscope of topics, of inspirations, and I'm going to let myself be wild and free with that, as I want you to be. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so grateful. I'm your host, Stephanie Sauvé-Bogue. Welcome to the You Boo podcast.